So do you want
So,
me to start with your first question?
oh no, I'll do the whole interview stuff and
Okay.
we'll get to it. Uh,
Okay.
my name is Chris, and today we'll be talking about machinima and its future with one of the prominent figures in the field of machinima, Mr. Spencer Donnelly, aka the Russian Badger. Uh, Badger is a Twitch streamer and YouTube content creator who incorporates elements of machinima in his long and short form videos on YouTube. Welcome, Russian Badger. Badger, can you introduce about yourself a bit more?
Sure. So I've been making YouTube videos for now 14 years. I first started my channel when I was 17 in 2010. Now I'm 31, so I've been doing it quite a while. It's what occupies almost all of my time. So I will work between 12 and 14 hours a day, 6 days a week on this type of thing. I'm totally obsessed with it. Like it's what I do all day. The only other stuff that I do in my life, more or less, is eat, exercise, and hang out with my wife. Everything else is just basically me working on videos. So it's kind of all that I am. Like I'm just constantly trying to make a better YouTube video. So I do everything myself apart from playing games with my friends. So I'll play games with my friends and record, but then after that, all the scripting, all the organization, all the video editing, all the animating is all me. And because it's just one guy in his room, I like to think that my audience finds that very special because it's very relatable and very simple.
Uh, what was your, I guess, main inspiration of your machinima?
What I was looking to do when I was making a video is I wanted a cutscene or some kind of video gameplay footage that was perfectly tailored to what I was talking about. So if I'm talking about dunking a basketball in a video game, I want the perfect video clip that is in front from a cutscene or from gameplay of somebody dunking a basketball. But oftentimes, when you are talking about so many different parts of a game, that you just can't find quite the right visual aid or the gameplay or the cutscene because cutscenes are usually fairly limited. So I started to think, why can't I just make my own cutscenes? Like they might not be as good as they are in the game, but I think especially when your audience knows that you're just one person, they will give you the time of day of like, okay, maybe it's not perfect graphics, maybe everything is not perfectly polished, but they'll understand what you're saying and you can communicate your points a whole lot better when it's almost like you make your own cutscene for yourself.
You are truly passionate about what you're doing as like your content creator and you're machinimating your videos. Do you consider machinima as an art, and what do you think are the strong points and shortcomings of it compared to other types of like media or field of arts?
I do consider machinima to be an art. I do just think it's hand in hand with animation, but it's a little bit of a different kind of animation. A huge advantage of machinima is that all of the components of your animation already exist and are ready to be used. So, for example, I animate in Source Filmmaker, which is a very, very old software, but it's based off of all of these assets that a company called Valve already made. So you're using their video game characters, their maps. There are custom maps that you can build yourself that is pretty quick, or you can use other people's maps that they post for free. But basically, Machinima is hugely useful because you don't have to start from scratch every time you're animating something. You can use a ton of tools that are already ready to go. Whereas if you're thinking about a lot of different other types of animation, it would be like this. You want to make an animated short, boot up Blender and start
Oh,
modeling a character from scratch. Start thinking about, oh, what map would he be on? And start making trees and bushes and rocks. And that's just, I would consider it like baking a pie from scratch, like growing vegetables in a garden and growing fruits in a garden and getting wheat from scratch versus all
God.
the ingredients are already on your counter. You just got to put them together. So it's just a huge shortcut. It's way more productive. And especially when you're just one person, you want to be moving as fast as possible. So using Machinima is just so good for getting the point across that you want to make and making a really great animation without having to start from scratch, basically.
So there are like already amazing like feature, almost feature film length of like films out there, and do you think there would be ever a day where those kind of films would be aired or shown or featured in one of the prominent film festivals out there?
Hmm. Well, you should know that that actually already exists. So we already have
Oh,
proof that Machinima can make it into the mainstream, which was, if, I don't know if you're familiar, but you're familiar with Rooster Teeth, right?
right. Red
Red
versus
versus
blue.
Blue is arguably the most successful machinima ever as far as getting into the mainstream. And so, just in case anybody watching does not understand that, they used Halo, the Halo video game, as a basis for machinima, and then it became so successful that the studio called Rooster Teeth made it into a Netflix show that you can watch that was not just machinima, but actually animated and mocapped a bunch of scenes that made it into a full-blown animation that they put on Netflix. So I think it's on Netflix or at least one of the other streaming services, but Red versus Blue has already entered into the mainstream. But it
Right.
still shows that machinima can be a thing that is viewed in the mainstream and become extremely popular.
So hopping up from that question, our final question is: film industry. There are some studios who are using Unreal Engine, which
Mm-hmm.
video game engine, to create VFX shots for their movies or TV shows, and there are some sets where they use game engines. They will machinimate their storyboards. What kind of future does machinima holds, and how will it change the future in the field of entertainment and art?
I think a great example is The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian was heavily involved with, I think it's Unreal 5.
Yeah.
And there's another company that's associated with it, but I just think they're going to understand that for series where you do not need massive amounts of space and you are very character driven with your plot or your story, it is so much better to just use something like Unreal Engine in a studio with very large encapsulating screens,
Right.
as opposed to actors like when they're filming Mad Max, they don't want to go to Africa or Australia for like 6 months. So if
Right.
it's so much better if you can not have all that support staff, all that money, all that time away from home that everybody hates, and you could just have it in a studio in LA and it's totally encapsulating and you can have any world that you want. I like to think that's probably the greatest example of machinima outside of Red versus Blue.
That's about it for the interview questions. Is there anything more you want to share, or you want to talk to the class in general?
I think the
Artists. Yeah.
biggest piece of advice, like if I could talk to your entire class, what I
Mm-hmm.
would tell them is you have no idea how powerful you are as one person. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it would have taken an army of people. Like we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of people all working together with really crappy, crummy computers to make an animation that I can make in maybe a couple days or a week just because I have a motion capture suit. I have a graphics card in my computer that is crazy powerful and not that expensive. I have Blender, I have Source Filmmaker, I have all of these softwares that are so incredibly powerful and can be used by one person. And then I'm also using ChatGPT. So let's say I don't know how to use this software. I'm like, in Blender, how do I animate this keyframe in the software that I don't know? ChatGPT or any other AI will tell you how to use that software. So it's almost,
Ah.
it is this infinitely patient tutor that doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, doesn't need any food, is just ready to go at all times, ready to teach you anything you're ready to learn. I think all of those things combined, you can learn whatever you want. You can be extremely powerful and you can produce any animation you want nowadays as one guy and it can be really really good. Something that you should definitely tell your class or that you and all of your peers should be thinking about
Mm-hmm.
is it is crazy how powerful one person can be today. Like
Okay.
if you understand software, and I think this should be the really exciting thing to people like you, Chris, is because I'm dumb. Like I'm not that smart. I imagine that especially in the Korean educational system, you have people that can learn things very fast, that can really retain information that I would consider to be like actually really smart people. But I love the thing so much and I have an ability to never give up while I'm learning. So I think it should be inspiring to each one of you guys of you don't have to be that smart to get really good at this thing as long as you can learn and you're interested. So if there's one thing to leave you with, you should know that you guys are all super powerful as individuals and there's I like to think there's never been a better time to be alive if you love animation, because there's just so many tools and so many softwares that are oftentimes free that you can work with.
Well, thank you for sharing your expertise and all of your kind words in this interview. I know there are some tough questions to answer, and I know there were some more you want to get into, but thanks to you, we have better understanding on the topic of machinima.